Hey everybody, Wayno here. So we're going to have a talk today about your government. Your government. Your government is not your government. They're actually a corporation. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about our relationship with the government. For a long time now, and in particular now in our current situation, people have been giving their power away to the government, and this is not a very good thing. So I want you to think about that relationship for a minute, because we're giving them paperwork to cross borders. We're rolling up our sleeves. We're doing all sorts of stuff that isn't right. So I want you to think about this in terms of your relationship with the government. Now, if you're liking it to a marriage, if you give your power away to your partner in a relationship like a marriage, then you struggle to have any relevance. It builds resentment, judgment, argument. Whereas if power is roughly equal, then you have love, balance, and harmony. Now, in either case, whether you're talking about your relationship with the government or a marriage or personal relationship, once you've given your power away, it is going to take a massive battle to regain it. The status quo will not be relinquished easily. The battle will be intense if you truly want your power back. But when you win, the relationship will never be the same again. So think about this in terms of your relationship with the government, because this is right where we're at. This is where the rubber meets the road. All right, we've been giving away our power for far too long. And some now, many now, are beginning to take their power back. They've realised the imbalance. So let's look at it another way. If I say to you that a river cannot flow above its source, and yet our government's telling us every day how to live our lives, what to do, then it's not a request, it's an order. So a river cannot flow above its source. So if you think about that for a minute, what was here first? The people or the government? Well, obviously the people. Government stems from the people and can never be above the people. And yet it would appear that they are. We have a very, very big imbalance. Okay, so what I've found out of what many people already know, and I talk to many people and we just refer to them as a corporation because it's becoming commonly known, but just in case you don't know, here it is. Your government's actually a corporation. It's just like any other corporation in Australia, the big ones like Bunnings, McDonald's, or any of those. It's the same thing. It's a corporate structure. Now, I believe, now I'm going to prove that part to you. I'm going to prove to you before the end of this video that your government's a corporation. I'm going to tell you something that I believe, which I can't prove, so you can dismiss it or whatever. You can dismiss the whole fucking thing if you like. But so I believe that your top politicians have been selected, not elected. Now, I don't know the mechanics of that, but I'm pretty sure it's true. But anyway, I can't prove that. That's just my thought. But keep this in mind, that if what I say is true and your government's a corporation, and I'm going to prove it to you, if Wayno knows this and Wayno's a truck driver, then it's dead set for certain that every politician and top bureaucrat in the country knows this information, knows that government is a corporation. So when do you reckon they were going to tell us? Think about all those people that involves that have that knowledge, and it's been kept away from the public. Now, this leads to the fact that their statutory legislation is illegal. It has been for certain since 1973. It's been illegal since 1973 because back then Gough Whitlam got rid of the Queen, signed up Australia up to Unidroit law, which is Roman law or Vatican law, if you like. And that's another story, and we're not going to go into that here now. That'll take too long, but it's a fact. So their legislation is more, I look at it as more like company policy than legislation. As far as I can see, it doesn't apply to us. You see, a corporation cannot contract with you and I as flesh and blood human beings. A corporation can only contract with another corporation. So they have no power over you or me. And what's more important, or as important, they certainly have no allegiance to you. They owe you nothing. They answer to their masters, and that's that. Also begs the question, if they're a corporation, who does the army answer to? Where's the army stand in all of this? And also the police, where do the police stand in all of this? Okay, so that's that bit of information. Let me just go to screen share here. I'll get some stuff up here, which I think is this one. And we'll see if we can't prove something here. Now, this is not my research. This all came to me by way of, well, I look around and stuff comes to me and I watch videos and you know, do a bit of research, but the actual facts that are all here all came from somebody else. I've just put them together in this video, and I'm going to put, there's 4 or 5 websites here. I'll put them all under the video and you can race off in there and you can look at all the content in your own time. But this is a fact, your government is a corporation. Now, let me just type in a name here, which I won't say out loud. Right, here's the name. We'll do a search. So there they are, they've come up there. If we go into there, here's a bit of information. They've had their current name since 1993, so this goes back a little while. It's not like it was just yesterday. Registered with ASIC, which is the Australian, I forget what ASIC stands for now, but anyway, you know who they are. Right, they got an Australian company number, Australian business number. Registration date was in 1967. 1967, people. An Australian proprietary company limited by shares. So it's been around since 1967. So this wasn't just yesterday. So this here's a bit of a blurb about who they are. Just here it says that the complete list includes 52 business names that they operate under. So let's go down. Well, first of all, I'll just show you something else. This is their ABN, their Australian business number. I'll copy that. And I'll go in here to ABN lookup, and I'll paste that in there, right? And we'll do a search. Now you saw the name of the company, but here we have the ABN, and we know that they're an Australian company, but their entity name, for some reason, ABN details are suppressed. So what have they got to hide? This is what have they got to hide? This is a public company, and all of a sudden, we can't see who they are. Okay, so that's just a little aside there. So let's have a look at these business names. We've got King of Australia, Queen of Australia. Now, when Gough Whitlam got rid of the Queen out of Australia, they invented, instead of the Queen of England and all the titles that she has, they invented the Queen of Australia. And she's just a paper queen, just an entity on paper. Quite possibly that's her there. But here's something of interest. We have the Australian Labor Party. We also have the Liberal Party of Australia. And we have them here in another spelling with the Australian Labor Party and the Liberal Party of Australia. So those names would be copyrighted. You wouldn't be able to just use them anywhere and claim them. So this stuff's for real. So here, this company that we're looking at owns the Liberal Party and it owns the Labor Party. So there you have it. They're both different wings of the same bird. So if you're wondering who to vote for, you have to start thinking about someone else, because that certainly doesn't add up. There's a lot of other stuff in here. Stamp Duty's office, Registrar General's office. Now, the Registrar General, when you register something, like you register your child when they're born, you give ownership to the registrar. When you register your car, you get to look after it and pay for it, but you've actually given ownership to the state. So this company owns that. The Registrar Stamp Duty's office, that would generate a fair bit of money for them. What else is the Office of Fines and Penalties? Well, look at that. The next time you pay a fine and you think the money's going to go to consolidated revenue to fix that pothole in the road out the front of your house, I doubt it. It's going into the coffers of this company who owe you no allegiance and don't give a fuck about the pothole out the front of your place. All right. So New South Wales Fines and Penalties, Office of Revenue, they've tapped into the big one there. Office of New South Wales Roads and Maritime Services. Now, I'm originally from New South Wales. That's the RMS, where you go to register your boat or your car or whatever. Now, if you go into the links that I'm going to provide under this, you'll find an original video from a fellow called Mark Christopher and another bloke that he's talking with, a fellow called Hugh. And they go into all this, and this is where I learned it from. I'm just doing what they did. Mark Christopher is an expert on language and probably law, but he got this a bit mixed up. When he saw Maritime Services there, he thought that might have been the Navy. But he's a bit wrong on that one, but he's a very smart man. And I think we can overlook that one little mistake. So there's just all the, so anyway, there you go. 52 different companies that this mob trade under, and some of them are branches of your government. So let's have a look at something else. The link for that will be under the video. Corporations. Now, this website's owned by a fellow called Scott Bartle, and quite a few years ago he tried to import this Chevy Corvette into the country, and he ran into a few problems, and being the bloke he is, he chased it all up, and he suspected that there were two governments. But this is his website. He says, would you be surprised to find a company with the same name as your country, a company with the same name as your country, registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington? Well, guess what? Among those listed as corporate entities by the United States are a few of them: Israel, Turkey, Italy, Hungary, Sweden, South Africa, Canada, and Australia's there. Right, so here we go, the entity name, and we'll look at this in a couple of different sites here, but The entity name's the Commonwealth of Australia. It has a CIK reference there, which I don't know what that is, index key, central index key, got a number, standard industrial code, SIC. There it is there. Its address at Massachusetts Avenue, Washington, Commonwealth of Australia. So, and we go on down here, the Great Seal of Australia. I don't know if that's been talked about a fair bit lately, but the Great Seal of Australia, which is supposed to seal all the legislation, is a trademark registered with the United States Patent Trademark Office. So there you go. Anyway, this goes on a little bit closer here, government and the role of the Governor-General, but I'm not going to go through all of that. You can have a look at that yourself. It might help you believe what I'm telling you. Let's have a look at something else here. This is Tott News. This is another website that I came across. So they're saying Australian government, a privately owned company. It's a question that's been asked for many years. Is the current Australian government a legitimate entity of authority in society, or is it simply a private corporation masquerading as one? The following is an archive of over 100 pages of documents relating to registration with the Securities Exchange Commission of the Australian government as a privately owned company. So there we have the document. That's 100 pages, and we're going to have a look at that in the next one, I think. Following is an archive. For a number of years, there's been controversy over the topic of the legality of the Australian government, particularly the claim that has been replaced with a private corporation. And remember, I'm urging you to think about your relationship with this government. Your relationship, it would seem, is with a corporate entity who couldn't give a fuck about you. So you better take notice. This corporation has private shareholders that are pocketing our taxes, according to claims of many proponents of the theory. Well, there's a fair bit of proof here. I think it's gone past theory. It's gone past the theory stage. The movement grew out of the experience of Scott Bartle, who had trouble importing his 1959 Chevy Corvette into Australia. He noticed that what he described as two governments and two parliaments. He took him to task, and you can read all about it here. In here. Now, here's some more from Edgar search results. This is US Securities and Exchange Commission. This is, the entity is the Commonwealth of Australia. The location is Washington, the SEC in Washington. Their address, Massachusetts Avenue, the Australian Embassy, that's their address over there. This refers to ownership. They have a prospectus. They have an annual report, right? Now, this Scott Bartle, he has a thing called what the FUQ, frequently unanswered questions of the Australian government. So you can go in there and you can find out a lot of stuff, okay? So now let's have a look at one more. Now, we are now on an Australian government website, the Treasury website, right? And we're going to go and we're going to have a look at this document here. And here's the one that we were looking at before. Now, this was released by FOI there up in the top corner, Freedom of Information. That's how this was brought into the light. Somebody made a Freedom of Information request, and this is what came up. So same thing again, SEC, we're talking about the Commonwealth of Australia. Now this is the same 100-page document that was mentioned in that other site, and this gives all the details. All the details. We go down here a bit, the Commonwealth of Australia Prospectus. So there you go, the Commonwealth of Australia has been put out there and sold to the highest bidder. Are you thinking about your relationship with this entity? Do you even want to be or have a relationship with them, right? Now, there's no doubt that like this is on their website, on the ATO website. I would say only because it's been brought to light by a Freedom of Information request. And if you ask the government, they would probably come up with some reason. But really, people, there's a prospectus, Treasury report. Here's the bit of dirt in question, sold to the highest bidder, been knocked down. So there you go. Table of contents. You can just about this prospectus. Now, I didn't read all this because I don't have time, but here's some forward-looking statements. Right. So it's all there. You can go through it. You can go through it at your leisure because the link is under the video. Righto, let me get out of there. Righto, so there you have it. There's the proof. Think what you like, believe what you like. But if you're, well, I'm horrified. I've known about this for quite a while now, but I'm horrified, and I see what's going on in our country now when we need documentation and medical conditions to cross a border in our own country, in the country that I love and you probably love as well. What's going on, people? Time to wake up. Time to have a bit of a look at this, I think. Okay, that's it. See ya.